A king once asked his most trusted advisor why he never spoke during arguments at court. The advisor said, "My silence has won me more battles than my words ever could." The king did not understand. He pressed for an explanation. The advisor said, "When men argue, they reveal everything: their fears, their weaknesses, their true intentions. I learn more in 5 minutes of listening than I would in an hour of speaking. And when I finally do speak, they have no idea what is coming, because I never showed them my hand." That king went on to win wars not through the loudest voice in the room, but through the quietest one. And 2,000 years later, that same principle is still waiting for you to discover it. 1. Stay silent when someone is trying to provoke you. A trader on a chaotic exchange floor was known throughout the industry for one specific quality. No matter how aggressive his competitors got, no matter how loudly they shouted over him to drown out his bids, he never raised his voice. He never engaged. He simply waited, watched, and moved at the exact moment that gave him the advantage. One particular rival made it his mission to rattle him. Insults, mockery, attempts to make him look small in front of the entire floor. Every single time, the trader said nothing. He would simply look at the man, let a beat of silence pass, and then return his attention to the numbers in front of him. After months of this, the rival finally cracked under his own frustration. He made a reckless trade out of pure emotion, trying to prove a point that no longer needed proving. He lost a significant amount of money that day. The trader, asked later why he never responded to the provocation, said simply, "Every time he tried to make me react, he was telling me exactly how much power he thought my reaction had. I never gave him the satisfaction of confirming it." Epictetus taught that if someone succeeds in provoking you, it is because your own mind agreed to be provoked. The provocation itself is just noise until you decide to give it meaning. Silence, in that moment, is not weakness. It is the refusal to hand someone a victory they have not earned. When you are provoked, and you will be, repeatedly, by people who have learned that emotional reactions are easy to extract, your silence becomes the wall they cannot climb. It tells them, without a single word, that their strategy does not work on you. And there is no comeback more devastating than the complete absence of one. 2. Stay silent when you are about to defend yourself to people who have already decided. A woman was accused, falsely, of something at work. The rumor spread quickly. Colleagues who barely knew her formed opinions based on second-hand gossip. She felt the urge, overwhelming, almost physical, to correct every person, to explain herself to anyone who would listen, to fix the narrative before it solidified completely. She caught herself before she did. She asked a simple question: will explaining this to people who have already made up their minds actually change anything? Or will it simply make me look more desperate, more guilty, more consumed by something that was never actually true? She chose silence. Not out of weakness, but out of strategic clarity. She continued doing her work with the same quality and consistency she always had. She did not chase down every whisper. She did not demand apologies from people who had judged her unfairly. Months later, the truth came out on its own, through the natural unfolding of events, through people who actually knew her well enough to know the rumor did not match her character. And because she had not spent that time defending herself loudly to everyone, her composure during the entire ordeal became, in hindsight, its own kind of evidence. People who watched her remain calm under false accusation respected her more for it than any explanation could have earned her. Marcus Aurelius wrote that if it is not true, it does not deserve extensive argument, because the truth, given enough time, reveals itself through the weight of reality rather than the volume of protest. Not every accusation deserves your defense. Some deserve only your continued consistent, undisturbed character, which speaks far louder and far more convincingly than anything you could say in the moment. 3. Stay silent when you feel the urge to announce your plans. A young entrepreneur once told everyone he knew about the business he was about to launch. He described it in detail at every dinner party, every family gathering, every casual conversation. People congratulated him. They told him how exciting it sounded, how proud they were, how certain they were that he would succeed. He felt amazing. He felt like he had already accomplished something. He never launched the business. The motivation that should have gone into building it had already been spent, consumed by the social reward of talking about it. The identity of being someone with an exciting plan had already been granted to him by his friends, and once granted, the actual work no longer carried the same pull. Years later, he tried again, this time telling no one. He worked quietly, made mistakes privately, adjusted his approach without an audience watching and forming opinions about every pivot. When the business finally launched, it was real, tested, and built on substance rather than the performance of ambition. Marcus Aurelius did not write his meditations for anyone to read. They were private, unpolished, honest in a way that performance never allows. He was not building an audience. He was building himself. Your plans, in their early and most fragile stage, do not need an audience. They need your full, undivided, unrewarded attention. Let the praise come later, earned by results, not borrowed in advance through announcement. 4. Stay silent when you are angry enough to say something you cannot take back. A father and his teenage son had a disagreement that escalated quickly. Both of them were raising their voices. Both of them were searching for the words that would hurt the most, when the argument proved the point. The father felt something rising in him, a specific, familiar heat that he recognized from years of similar moments. And for the first time, instead of letting that heat choose his next words, he stopped. He simply said, "I need a minute," and he walked into another room. He stood there for several minutes, breathing, feeling the anger slowly lose its grip on his judgment. When he returned, the conversation continued, but differently. Calmer, more honest, free of the kind of words that, once spoken, cannot be unheard. Years later, his son told him that moment had changed something in their relationship. Not because of what was said, but because of what was not. Seneca wrote extensively about anger, calling it a temporary madness, a state in which the mind, for a brief period, is no longer reliably itself. He advised a simple practice: when angry, do nothing at all. Not because the anger is invalid, but because the actions taken while consumed by it almost always cause more damage than the original offense. The words you do not say in anger are some of the most valuable words of your entire life, precisely because of the relationships, the trust, and the self-respect they preserve simply by remaining unspoken. 5. Stay silent when you are tempted to compete with someone else's story. At a dinner gathering, one guest told a long, detailed story about a difficult challenge he had overcome. Another guest, listening, felt the familiar itch to respond with her own story, one that was, in her mind, even more impressive, even more difficult, even more deserving of the table's attention. She caught herself reaching for it. And then she simply did not. She asked the first guest a question instead. She let him finish his story fully, without rushing toward her own moment to shine. She listened, actually listened, rather than waiting for her turn to speak. After the gathering, the host pulled her aside and said something she remembered for years. "You were the only person tonight who made people feel like the most interesting person in the room was them, not you." Epictetus taught that the philosopher does not show off their philosophy through words but reveals it through the quality of their actions and their presence. The compulsion to match or exceed someone else's story is, beneath the surface, a need to be seen as equally or more impressive. And resisting that compulsion, choosing instead to give someone else the full space of being heard, is one of the quietest and most powerful forms of discipline available. People remember how you made them feel far longer than they remember what you said. And the people who make others feel truly heard are rare enough that they are remembered for it. 6. Stay silent when you do not yet fully understand the situation. A manager once walked into a tense conversation between two team members, midway through an argument. He had heard only the last few sentences. He could have jumped in immediately, taken a side, offered a quick resolution to make the discomfort go away. Instead, he said, "Tell me what happened, both of you, from the beginning." He listened for 15 minutes. He asked clarifying questions. He resisted forming a judgment until he had heard the full picture, including details that completely changed his initial assumption about who was in the right. The resolution he eventually offered was far more accurate, far more fair, and far more respected by both parties than anything he could have produced from a snap judgment based on a fragment of the conversation. Marcus Aurelius wrote about the discipline of perception, training the mind to see things as they actually are, rather than as they first appear. Silence, in moments of incomplete information, is not indecisiveness. It is intellectual honesty. It is the recognition that speaking before understanding is a guarantee of being at least partially wrong. The person who can sit with not knowing, who can resist the social pressure to have an immediate opinion on everything, earns something valuable over time. A reputation for being right more often than the people who always have something to say. 7. Stay silent when your work can speak instead. A craftsman spent 2 years building a single piece of furniture, a desk, made with techniques that had nearly disappeared, joined without a single nail, finished by hand over hundreds of hours. He did not talk about it during the process. He did not post about it. He did not explain to curious friends exactly how difficult or impressive the techniques were. When people asked what he was working on, he simply said a desk. When it was finally finished and displayed, people did not need him to explain its value. They could see it. They could run their hands along the joints and understand, without a single word of explanation, the years of skill that had gone into it. A younger craftsman who had been talking for months about a similar project, describing every technique, every challenge, every impressive detail before the work was even half done, produced something far less refined. He had spent in words what he should have spent in hours at the bench. Seneca wrote, "While we wait for life, life passes." Applied to work, the principle becomes, while we talk about the work does not get done. There is a specific kind of confidence that does not need to narrate itself. It simply produces. It lets the finished product carry the weight that words were never going to carry as convincingly. The desk did not need a description. The silence of the craftsman, sustained over 2 years, became its own form of credibility the moment the work was revealed. What these 7 moments have in common. Every story in this script shares the same underlying truth. In each moment, provocation, false accusation, the urge to announce, anger, the pull to compete, incomplete information, and the temptation to narrate unfinished work, silence was not a passive absence. It was an active, deliberate choice. The traitor did not stay silent because he had nothing to say. He stayed silent because speaking would have cost him an advantage. The woman who was falsely accused did not stay silent because she lacked the words to defend herself. She stayed silent because her character, demonstrated consistently, was a more convincing argument than any explanation could be. The father did not stay silent because his anger was not real. He stayed silent because he understood that anger speaking is rarely anger thinking clearly. Marcus Aurelius wrote that the act of writing his private meditations, unread by anyone, unpolished, completely honest, was itself a form of discipline. Not because silence is always correct, but because the discipline of choosing when to speak, and when to let your character, your work, and your composure speak instead, is one of the rarest and most powerful skills a human being can develop. Epictetus said we have 2 ears and 1 mouth so that we listen twice as much as we speak. That ratio was not an accident of anatomy in his teaching. It was a daily instruction. The practice of choosing silence deliberately. This is not a passive trait you either have or do not have. It is a practice, one that requires the same kind of daily attention that any meaningful discipline requires. Before you speak in a difficult moment, ask yourself a few quick questions. Is this provocation, or is this genuine communication that deserves a response? Has this person already decided what they believe, regardless of what I say? Am I about to spend my motivation by announcing something I have not yet built? Is this anger speaking, or is this clarity speaking? Am I trying to be heard, or am I trying to make someone else feel heard? Do I actually understand this situation fully, or am I reacting to a fragment of it? And finally, could my actions say this more convincingly than my words ever could? These questions take seconds to ask internally. But asking them, consistently, across the small daily moments of your life, builds something that compounds dramatically over time. A reputation for being someone whose words, when they finally come, actually carry weight, because they are not constant, not wasted, not given away cheaply to every provocation and every opportunity for attention. Marcus Aurelius governed the most powerful empire on earth, and still found it necessary to remind himself daily of these same disciplines. If silence required practice for a man with that much power and that much pressure, it requires practice for the rest of us too. The life built on chosen silence. Picture what a life looks like when these 7 practices become habitual rather than effortful. You walk into rooms with a kind of presence that does not need to announce itself. People sense that you are not performing, that the silence is not a void but a depth. When you do speak, people lean in slightly, because they have learned over time that your words are not wasted on things unworthy of them. Provocations land on you and find nothing to grip. False accusations meet a consistency of character that eventually speaks louder than any rumor. Your plans grow quietly, protected from the early exposure that drains motivation before momentum has built. Your anger, when it arises, is met with a pause rather than an explosion, preserving relationships that careless words would have damaged. Other people's stories receive your full attention rather than your competing one, and they remember you for the rare gift of being truly listened to. Your opinions, when you finally offer them, come from genuine understanding rather than rushed assumption. And your work, built patiently, without the need for constant narration, eventually speaks with a clarity that no amount of talking about it ever could. This is not a life of suppression. It is a life of precision. You are not silencing yourself out of fear. You are choosing your words, your reactions, and your moments of expression with the same care a craftsman chooses each cut of the blade, deliberately, purposefully, and only when it genuinely serves the work. The final truth about silence. Silence is often misunderstood as the absence of power, as if the person who says the least has the least to offer, the least confidence, the least to contribute. The Stoics understood the opposite to be true. Silence, used deliberately, is one of the most concentrated forms of power available to a human being. It withholds information from those who would misuse it. It denies provocateurs the reaction they are fishing for. It allows character and consistency to make arguments that words cannot make as convincingly. It protects the fragile early stages of ambition from being spent in conversation rather than action. It preserves relationships from the damage of words spoken in anger. It creates space for others to feel genuinely heard. It ensures that your understanding is complete before your judgment is offered. And it allows your work, the truest expression of your discipline, to speak with an authority that explanation can never fully replicate. The king's advisor was right. His silence won more battles than his words ever could, not because he had nothing to say, but because he understood exactly when saying nothing said everything that needed to be said. Choose your silence the way you would choose your most important words. Deliberately. Strategically. With full awareness of the power it carries. And let your discipline, quiet, consistent, and complete, speak for you in every moment that words were never going to do it justice. Please subscribe for more. The moment you stop being available, everything changes. Have you ever noticed something strange? The more available you are, the less people seem to value your presence. You answer immediately. You cancel your plans for them. You always say yes. You always understand. You always forgive. And somehow, they still take you for granted. Then one day, you become unavailable. Not because you're angry. Not because you're playing games. But because you've finally decided to respect your own time. And suddenly everything changes. The people who ignored you start looking for you. The people who barely noticed you begin paying attention. The people who assumed you would always be there become uncomfortable. Why? Because your absence reveals the value they overlooked. Today, you'll discover why becoming less available can completely transform your relationships, your confidence, and your peace of mind. Your constant presence becomes invisible. Human beings naturally adapt to what is always available. When something is constantly there, people stop appreciating it. Think about electricity. Most people never think about it. But the moment there's a power outage, everyone notices. The same thing happens with people. There was a young man named Daniel. He answered every call immediately. He replied to every message within seconds. Whenever his friends needed help, he dropped everything. At first, everyone praised him. They called him reliable, kind, supportive. But after a few years, something changed. Nobody thanked him anymore. His efforts became expected. One day, Daniel became busy with his own goals. He stopped responding instantly. He wasn't rude. He simply became occupied. Suddenly, people started asking where he was. They began appreciating his help. Nothing about Daniel changed. Only his availability changed. His absence revealed what his presence had hidden. The lesson is simple. People often don't value what is constantly available. They value what they can lose. Respect begins with boundaries. Many people believe being available all the time is kindness. Sometimes it's actually fear. Fear of disappointing others. Fear of rejection. Fear of being disliked. The Stoics taught that a person who cannot say no is not truly free. Marcus had a neighbor who constantly borrowed money. Every month he asked for another favor. And every month Marcus agreed. Not because he wanted to, but because he felt guilty saying no. The requests became larger. The demands became greater. The stress became unbearable. One day Marcus politely refused. The neighbor became upset. He complained. He criticized Marcus. But something interesting happened. The endless requests stopped. The neighbor began respecting Marcus's limits. For the first time, Marcus felt peace. Many people think boundaries push people away. In reality, boundaries reveal who truly respects you. The people who value you will understand. The people who only use you will become angry. Both reactions teach you something important. The world rewards scarcity. A diamond is valuable partly because it is rare. Gold is precious because it is limited. Your time works exactly the same way. When you give it away without limits, people assume it has little value. When you protect it, people recognize its worth. A woman named Sarah spent years attending every social gathering. Every invitation received an immediate yes. Birthdays, parties, meetings, events. She was everywhere. Yet nobody seemed excited to see her. Then Sarah started focusing on her business. She attended fewer events. Months later, something surprising happened. Whenever she appeared, people were genuinely happy. They paid attention. They listened carefully. They appreciated her presence. Why? Because she was no longer everywhere. Her time became valuable because it became selective. This doesn't mean becoming arrogant. It means understanding that your energy is limited. And limited things are naturally respected more. Silence reveals people's true intentions. Many relationships survive only because one person does all the work. The messages, the calls, the invitations, the effort. Remove that effort and the relationship collapses. Not because you destroyed it, because it was never balanced to begin with. A man named Joseph decided to run a simple experiment. For years he was always the first person to reach out. One day he stopped. Not out of bitterness. Out of curiosity. He wanted to see who would contact him first. Weeks passed. Many people disappeared. Some never reached out again. But a few did. Those few became his closest friends. The silence exposed the truth. Not everyone who is around you values you. Some simply enjoy the convenience you provide. When you stop chasing people, you discover who is willing to walk toward you. That knowledge is priceless. Your life begins when you stop living for approval. Many people remain constantly available because they crave approval. They want to be liked, needed, accepted. But approval is a dangerous addiction. The more you seek it, the more control others gain over your emotions. There was a talented artist named Michael. Every painting he created was influenced by other people's opinions. He constantly asked what everyone thought. He changed his work to satisfy them. The result? His art lost its uniqueness. One day he stopped asking for permission. He painted what he truly believed in. Many people disliked it. but many others loved it. Most importantly, he loved it. For the first time, he felt free. The moment you stop organizing your life around other people's approval, your authentic self emerges. And authenticity is far more powerful than popularity. People notice your absence more than your presence. This truth can be difficult to accept. Often people don't realize your value while you're there. They realize it after you're gone. A company had an employee named David. He worked hard every day, solved problems, helped coworkers, stayed late when necessary. Few people noticed. Then David accepted another job. Within weeks, the office struggled. Tasks were delayed. Problems increased. Employees complained. Only then did everyone understand how much David had contributed. His absence revealed his importance. This happens everywhere. Families, friendships, relationships, workplaces. Your value often becomes visible when your presence is no longer guaranteed. That's why you should never measure your worth by immediate recognition. Sometimes people need distance to see clearly. Stop explaining yourself to everyone. One sign of emotional maturity is needing fewer explanations. Not everyone deserves access to your reasons. Not everyone needs your approval. A young woman named Grace used to explain every decision she made. If she declined an invitation, she wrote long messages. If she changed plans, she provided detailed justifications. She spent hours defending herself. One day she became exhausted. She started saying simple things. "I can't make it. I have other priorities. That doesn't work for me." To her surprise, life became easier. Most people accepted her answers. The few who demanded endless explanations revealed their desire for control. You don't know the world a detailed defense of every choice. Your life belongs to you. Protecting your peace is not selfish. Many people confuse self-respect with selfishness. They're not the same. Selfishness means ignoring others. Self-respect means not ignoring yourself. A father named Peter worked endlessly for everyone around him. His children, his relatives, his co-workers, his friends. Everyone received his energy. Everyone except himself. Eventually, he became exhausted, irritable, unhappy. His family noticed. One evening, he began taking an hour each day for himself. Reading, walking, reflecting. At first, people complained. But over time, something changed. Peter became calmer, kinder, more patient, more present. By protecting his own peace, he became better for everyone else. You cannot pour from an empty cup. The strongest people understand that caring for themselves is not a luxury. It's a responsibility. Detachment creates strength. The Stoics believe that attachment to outcomes creates suffering. When your happiness depends on how others behave, you become fragile. When your happiness depends on your own character, you become powerful. A businessman named Andrew lost an important client. Years earlier, such a loss would have devastated him. This time he remained calm. He had learned a valuable lesson. His worth was not tied to one client, one opportunity, one outcome. Instead of panicking, he focused on what he could control. His effort, his attitude, his actions. Within months, he attracted even better opportunities. Detachment isn't about not caring. It's about refusing to let external events control your inner peace. And that is true strength. The less you chase, the more clarity you gain. When you're constantly chasing people, opportunities, and validation, everything becomes blurry. You're too busy pursuing to observe. But when you stop chasing, clarity arrives. A young woman spent years trying to impress everyone around her. She changed her personality depending on who she was with. She wanted everyone to like her. Eventually, she became exhausted. She stopped trying. Some people left. Others stayed. For the first time, she knew who genuinely appreciated her. Losing the wrong people created space for the right people. Sometimes what feels like loss is actually liberation. Sometimes stepping back is the fastest way forward. Your greatest power is the ability to walk away. Nothing commands more respect than a person who can walk away from what no longer serves them. Not out of anger, not out of pride, but out of self-respect. An old merchant once taught his son a lesson. He handed him a handful of sand. "Close your fist tightly," he said. The son obeyed. The harder he squeezed, the more sand slipped through his fingers. Then the merchant said, "Hold it gently." This time the sand remained. The merchant smiled. Life works the same way. Desperation loses what peace can keep. Many people destroy relationships by clinging too tightly, by forcing, by chasing, by demanding. Strength comes from knowing that if something is meant to stay, it will not require you to abandon your dignity. And if it leaves, you will still be whole. One day people will realize your value. The question is whether you'll still be waiting for them when they do. Stop making yourself available to everyone. Start becoming available to your purpose. Protect your time. Guard your peace. Respect your energy. Because the moment you stop being available for everything and everyone, everything changes. And the first thing that changes is you. Please subscribe for more. He had not spoken in 3 days. Not because he was ill. Not because he had nothing to say. He had chosen it deliberately. A full 3 days of near complete silence, speaking only when absolutely necessary, observing everything, revealing nothing. On the 4th day, his closest friend asked him what the experience had taught him. He said, "I learned that most of what I say is not for the benefit of anyone listening. It is for the relief of whatever is pressing on me at that moment. And I learned that when I stopped releasing that pressure through words, it either dissolved on its own or revealed itself to be exactly the kind of thing I should have been sitting with, not broadcasting." His friend sat quietly for a moment, then said, "That might be the most important thing you have ever told me." The Stoics did not stumble upon silence accidentally. They pursued it deliberately, practiced it daily, and treated it not as the absence of something but as the presence of something most people never develop. The discipline of choosing when to speak and the wisdom to know that most of the time, the most powerful thing you can do is nothing at all. What follows are 7 specific moments where that silence is not just useful, it is essential. And in each one, you will see exactly what it costs when silence is abandoned and exactly what it produces when it is chosen. 1. Stay silent when someone is trying to provoke you. There was a chess grandmaster who had a reputation that went beyond the board. His opponents feared not just his strategy but his composure. He had played thousands of competitive games and had never, not once, been visibly rattled by an opponent's behavior, trash talk, delayed tactics, or attempts to get inside his head. A young challenger, who had studied the grandmaster's games obsessively, decided that the way to beat him was not through chess. It was through psychology. He arrived at the championship match having developed a specific strategy of psychological disruption, deliberate noise, exaggerated reactions, long pauses designed to create pressure, and comments under his breath designed to be just audible enough to be irritating. The Grandmaster noticed all of it. He was not unaware. He heard every comment, registered every tactic, understood precisely what was being attempted. He simply did not respond. Not with irritation, not with a counter-display of confidence, not with any signal whatsoever that the tactics were landing. He looked at the board, he thought about the board, and he moved the pieces with the same unhurried precision he always had. By the middle of the game, the young challenger was so distracted by his own tactics, by the absence of the reaction he had planned for, that he lost the thread of his strategy. He made a mistake in the 14th move that cost him the game. After the match, he was asked what happened. He said, "I was playing against someone who was only playing chess. I was doing something else entirely." Epictetus wrote, "If someone succeeds in provoking you, realize that your mind is complicit in the provocation." The Grandmaster had spent years training his mind not to be complicit. And the training showed not in what he did, but in what he refused to do. Every attempt to provoke you is a performance that needs an audience to succeed. The performer needs your flinch, your anger, your defensive response, to confirm that the performance worked and that the power they were reaching for is real. When you provide that response, you have cast yourself in their production. When you refuse, you have not just denied them the reaction. You have dissolved the entire premise of what they were attempting. Silence in the face of provocation is not passivity. It is the complete and total withdrawal of the fuel that the provocation needed to become anything more than noise. And noise, deprived of fuel, burns itself out. Always. Without exception. 2. Stay silent when you want to defend yourself to people who have already decided. A woman spent 20 years building a reputation in her field. She was known, respected, and trusted by the people who actually worked alongside her. Then a single accusation, unfounded, driven by professional jealousy, spread through her industry with the speed that only rumors can travel. People who had never met her formed opinions. People who had met her briefly adjusted their memories to fit the new narrative. The story took on a life completely disconnected from the woman it was supposedly about. She felt the pull to respond with everything she had. To go to each person individually, to send letters, to make statements, to produce evidence, to chase down every whispered version of the accusation and correct it at its source. She wanted to fight for her name with the energy of someone who knew absolutely that they were innocent and could prove it. A mentor who had watched this kind of thing before asked her one question. Of all the people who currently believe this rumor, how many of them came to you first before forming their opinion? She thought about it. None of them. The mentor said, then they were not seeking truth. They were seeking a story. And a person seeking a story will not be satisfied by your correction. They will simply incorporate it into the story. She chose silence. She continued her work with the same quality and discipline she always had. She did not chase the rumor or the people who carried it. She made herself available to anyone who came to her directly, answered those conversations honestly and without drama, and otherwise kept her energy on the work that had built her reputation in the first place. Within a year, the rumor had faded. Not because she had defeated it, but because it had found nothing to feed on. The people who actually mattered in her field had continued working with her, had continued experiencing her character directly, and had continued forming the only kind of opinion that is actually built on something real. Marcus Aurelius wrote that the tranquility that comes when you stop caring what people say, only what you do, only their delight and stillness. The woman found that tranquility not by winning a battle of words but by refusing to fight one that was never going to be won with words anyway. Your character, lived consistently, is the most convincing argument you will ever make. And it makes that argument whether you are defending yourself or not. In fact, it often makes it better precisely when you are not. 3. Stay silent when you are tempted to announce what you have not yet built. Two brothers decided in the same month, independently, to start businesses. They had similar ideas, similar resources, and similar starting points. The first brother told everyone immediately. At family dinners, at social gatherings, in every conversation, he described his vision in vivid detail: the product, the customers, the revenue he expected, the impact he was going to have. People were excited for him. They asked questions. They expressed admiration. He loved the conversations and had them as often as possible. The second brother told almost no one. He mentioned it briefly to his partner and to one trusted friend. Otherwise, he went silent on the subject and went to work. He made mistakes privately, adjusted his approach without anyone watching, built slowly and without the pressure of having publicly committed to a specific version of the vision. 18 months later, the first brother's business had not launched. He had revised the idea so many times, in response to so many conversations, that it no longer resembled anything coherent. The energy that should have gone into building had been spent explaining. The motivation that should have fueled action had been released in talk. The second brother's business was operational, generating revenue, and beginning to grow. When people discovered it existed, they were genuinely surprised. He had built something real in the time his brother had been describing something imaginary. Seneca wrote with urgency that the soul should be led to the interior, away from the outside, toward itself. The second brother's silence was exactly this, a pulling of all his energy inward, toward the work, away from the performance of the work. There is a specific psychological mechanism at play here that the Stoics understood intuitively, and that modern research has confirmed. When you announce a goal and receive social acknowledgement for it, your brain registers a reward that was supposed to come from achieving the goal. The anticipated satisfaction of completion arrives early, through the conversation, and the motivation that would have driven you toward the actual achievement is partially spent before the work has even begun. Your plans, in their early form, are seeds. Seeds do not grow faster when you hold them up to show everyone. They grow faster when you put them in the ground and leave them alone. Silence protects the seed. Give it that protection for as long as the work requires it. 4. Stay silent when anger is speaking louder than your reason. A father had built a relationship with his daughter over 30 years that was, by any measure, one of genuine closeness and genuine love. They talked regularly, disagreed occasionally, and had navigated the normal tensions of a parent-child relationship with more grace than most. Then came an argument, the worst of their shared history. Both of them said things. Specific things. The kind of things that are not general enough to be forgotten, that are precise enough to have clearly been stored, waiting for exactly this kind of moment to be deployed. The father said something he had never said before and could not take back once it was out. The silence that followed was not chosen. It was the silence of a room where something had just broken. The repair took years. Not because either person was unwilling to forgive, but because the specific, targeted nature of what had been said had revealed something, that the words had been waiting, stored, weaponized, and that knowledge lingered long after the apology was made and accepted. When asked later what he wished he had done differently, the father said, "I wish I had stopped talking the moment I could feel that I was no longer speaking from love but from the need to win." Marcus Aurelius wrote that the best revenge is to be unlike the person who performed the injury. Applied to our own anger, the best response to the heat of the moment is to be unlike the version of ourselves that the heat is trying to produce. Seneca called anger a brief madness, a temporary state in which the mind is no longer fully itself. The words produced during that madness are not our truest words. They are the words of a mind under siege. And the people they are aimed at will not hear them as the product of a siege. They will hear them as the revelation of something we actually meant. The pause, the deliberate, chosen withdrawal from the conversation until the madness has passed, is not weakness. It is the protection of everything that matters more than winning the argument. The relationship, the truth. The person you actually want to be when the anger is no longer running the room. 5. Stay silent when you are in a room full of people speaking without thinking. There was a council meeting in a large organization where a significant and complex decision needed to be made. The stakes were real. The consequences of the wrong choice would affect hundreds of people and would be difficult to reverse. Everyone in the room had an opinion. They expressed those opinions quickly, confidently, and with the kind of certainty that comes not from deep analysis but from the social pressure to appear decisive. The conversation moved fast. Positions were taken. Momentum built around a particular direction. One member of the council said almost nothing for the first 40 minutes. She listened. She asked 2 or 3 careful clarifying questions. She took notes. She watched the conversation with the kind of attention that is only possible when you are not also managing your own next contribution. When she finally spoke, the room changed. Not because what she said was more eloquent than what had come before. Because it was more accurate. She had heard things in 40 minutes of listening that none of the active participants had noticed about their own conversation. The assumption nobody had examined, the data point that had been mentioned and then glossed over, the tension between 2 positions that nobody had directly addressed. Her contribution reframed the entire discussion. The decision that was eventually made was better for it, more considered, more complete, less vulnerable to the blind spots that fast consensus always carries. Epictetus said we have 2 ears and 1 mouth so that we may listen more and talk less. That ratio is not a suggestion. In rooms where decisions are being made quickly and confidently, the person who listens with full attention for as long as they can bear, before they speak, is almost always the person who contributes the most when they finally do. Silence in a room full of noise is not absence. It is attention. And attention, fully given, produces understanding that the noise itself could never produce. 6. Stay silent when someone else needs the space to be heard. An old therapist with decades of practice was asked by a younger colleague what the single most important skill in her profession was. She expected to hear something about technique, about intervention, about knowing when to push and when to hold back. The old therapist said, knowing when to say nothing. The younger colleague pressed her. What does that actually mean in practice? She told a story. Early in her career, she had a client who was working through a particularly painful memory, one he had never spoken about to anyone. He began talking, haltingly, stopping and starting. And she, eager to be helpful, had filled every pause. She offered reflections, asked questions, gently redirected. She thought she was doing her job. At the end of the session, the client thanked her and left. He never came back. Years later, she had learned to do something different. When a client was working through something difficult, she stopped filling the pauses. She let the silence sit. She trusted that the silence was not empty, that inside it, the client was doing something that her words were interrupting. Processing. Accessing. Finding. The most important conversations of her career, she said, were the ones where she had said the least. Marcus Aurelius wrote about the practice of understanding others fully before responding to them. That fullness of understanding is not possible when you are speaking. It is only possible when you are completely, generously, without distraction, listening. Silence given to another person, the silence that says I am here, I am paying attention, I do not need to fill this space with my own voice right now, is one of the rarest and most valuable gifts one human being can give another. And it is in increasingly short supply in a world where everyone is preparing their next contribution rather than fully receiving the one currently being offered. 7. Stay silent and let your work carry what your words cannot. A painter spent 7 years on a single series of works. She did not exhibit during those 7 years. She did not post about the work, did not invite people to see it in progress, did not discuss it in the art world circle she was part of. When people asked what she was working on, she said only, I am working. The art world mostly forgot about her during those 7 years. There were others who were more visible, more present, more consistently producing content about their process and their ideas. They occupied the conversation. She did not. When the series was finally exhibited, the response was unlike anything the gallery had seen in years. Not because of hype, there had been none. Because the work itself had a quality that 7 years of uninterrupted, unperformed, completely private attention had produced. Every piece carried the weight of the time that had been given to it without distraction, without the modification that outside opinion always introduces, without the thousand small compromises that come from creating under observation. Critics who had barely mentioned her name in 7 years wrote about the exhibition at length. They described a body of work that felt different from almost everything else being produced, more complete, more honest, more fully itself. She said in a single interview afterward, I stopped explaining the work before it existed. And that let it become something I could not have explained. Seneca wrote that it is not enough to act, one must act in the right direction. The painter's silence was not an action. It was the most active possible protection of the direction her work needed to go, undistracted, uncompromised, fully accountable to its own internal standard rather than to any external expectation. Your work, the thing you are actually building, the skill you are actually developing, the life you are actually constructing, will always speak more convincingly than any description of it can. Not when it is half done, not when it is described, not when it is announced. When it is complete. When it is real. When it exists in the world as something that can be encountered directly. Give it the silence it needs to become that thing. Not because silence is always better than words, but because the specific work of becoming, of developing, of building, of transforming, is almost always degraded by too much external commentary and protected by the discipline of keeping it to yourself until it is ready to be known. What the 7 moments reveal about the nature of silence. Every moment described in this script is different in its surface detail. The provocation and the creative process are not the same situation. The anger of a difficult argument and the patience required to listen are not the same emotional landscape. The defense of a reputation and the protection of an unfinished plan are not the same strategic problem. But underneath all of them, the same thing is being asked. The same capacity is being called upon. The same discipline is being practiced. The capacity to be present without reacting. To feel the pull toward speaking and to evaluate that pull honestly before acting on it. To ask, in the moment, under the pressure of the moment, is this silence in my interest, or is my silence failing someone who needs my voice? Is this quiet wisdom, or is it fear wearing wisdom's clothing? The Stoics were never advocates of silence for its own sake. They were not advising permanent withdrawal from human discourse. Marcus Aurelius governed an empire and spoke constantly, to senators, to generals, to advisors, to people who needed his decision and could not wait. Epictetus ran a school and taught through conversation. Seneca wrote millions of words. What they practiced was discernment. The trained, disciplined ability to know the difference between speaking that serves something real and speaking that serves only the need to be heard, to be right, to be understood, to release a pressure that would have dissolved on its own if given the chance. The daily cultivation of chosen silence. This is not a trait. It is a practice. And like any practice worth having, it is built in small moments that most people do not notice. Every time you feel the urge to respond to a message immediately, and choose to wait until you have thought clearly, that is a practice of silence. Every time you sit in a meeting and let someone finish speaking before you begin forming your contribution, that is a practice of silence. Every time you feel provoked and let the provocation pass through you without catching, that is a practice. Every time you resist announcing something you have not yet built, resist defending yourself to someone who is not genuinely seeking truth, resist filling the emotional space of a conversation that belongs to someone else's processing, you are building something. Not a reputation. Not a strategy. A self. A version of yourself that does not leak energy through every available opening. That has learned to hold what needs to be held, release what needs to be released, and speak only when speaking is the most useful thing available. Marcus Aurelius returned to these themes every morning in his private journal, not because he had mastered them, but because they required daily attention. He wrote about the temptation to talk too much, to seek approval through words, to allow the noise of the world to pull him away from the clarity of his own thinking. He wrote about it as if it were a daily battle, which it was, which it is, which it will continue to be for anyone willing to take it seriously. The practice is not the achievement of permanent silence. It is the daily recommitment to the question, is this moment one where my silence is the most powerful thing I have? What silence builds in you over time? The person who practices chosen silence consistently, across months and years, develops something that is visible without being announced. A quality of presence that most people cannot quite name, but everyone can feel. They are the person in the room who does not seem to be competing for anything, who does not have the slightly anxious energy of someone managing how they are being perceived, who listens in a way that makes the person speaking feel actually heard rather than waited out. When they speak, people listen differently than they listen to most people. Not because they are louder or more eloquent or better at structuring an argument. Because the words come less frequently and are therefore more likely to be worth receiving. The listener's brain has learned through experience with this person that when they open their mouth, something is coming that was worth waiting for. And internally, perhaps most significantly, the person who has built the practice of chosen silence has developed a relationship with their own mind that is genuinely different from most people's. They are not at the mercy of every feeling that arises. They have learned to observe their own impulses before acting on them, to notice the urge to defend and ask whether defense is actually needed, to notice the urge to announce and ask whether announcement serves the work, to notice the urge to respond and ask whether the response serves anything beyond the immediate relief of speaking. This is what Epictetus called freedom. Not the freedom from difficulty or discomfort or the provocations of other people. The freedom that exists in the space between stimulus and response. The space where the untrained person has no room and the trained person has built an entire life. The final truth. There is a passage in Marcus Aurelius's Meditations that almost everyone who reads it pauses at. He wrote to himself, not for anyone else, just for himself in the morning before the demands of the day arrived, that he should not waste the morning in distractions, in unnecessary conversation, in the social performance of being an emperor. He was one of the most powerful people who ever lived. He had every reason, every justification, every opportunity to fill every moment with words, with commands, with the expression of his own importance. And he was reminding himself, daily, privately, without anyone watching, to be quiet, to think before speaking, to let his character and his decisions be the primary language he used to communicate who he was. If that man, with that power, that responsibility, that endless supply of legitimate things to say, needed the daily reminder to choose silence over noise, what does that tell us about the rest of us? It tells us that silence is not natural, that the pull toward speaking, toward expressing, explaining, defending, announcing, performing, is one of the most persistent pulls in human psychology. That choosing quiet requires active, daily, conscious practice. That it does not get fully easier, only more familiar, and the familiarity is its own kind of reward. And it tells us that the reward is real, that the life built on chosen silence, not the absence of voice, but the discipline of using voice only when voice is genuinely the best tool available, is qualitatively different from the life built on reflexive speech. More peaceful, more powerful, more trusted, more clear, more fully itself. Stay silent when silence is the most powerful thing available to you. Let your discipline speak in the moments when words would only interrupt what your character is already saying. That is the practice. That is the path. And it begins in the very next moment you feel the urge to speak and ask yourself, honestly, without flinching, whether what you are about to say is worth more than the silence you would be breaking to say it. Most of the time, the silence is worth more. Choose it. Please. He was the most powerful man on earth. He commanded armies that stretched across 3 continents. He had the authority to end lives with a single word. He had more wealth, more influence, more raw power than any person alive in his time. And yet, Marcus Aurelius spent every single morning writing reminders to himself about how not to be controlled. Not by anger. Not by flattery. Not by fear. Not by the opinion of people who would never understand the weight he carried. Not by outcomes he could not guarantee. Not by a world that was constantly, relentlessly trying to pull him away from himself. If the most powerful man in the known world needed daily practice to avoid being controlled, what does that tell you about the battle the rest of us are in? It tells you everything. And today, we are going to win it. 1. You are being controlled by things you have never examined. A man had worked at the same company for 11 years. He was not happy there. He had not been happy there for at least 7 of those 11 years. When asked why he stayed, he said the same things every time. The stability. The pension. What people would think if he left. What his father would say. The fear that nothing else would work out. He had never once examined whether any of those reasons were actually true. He had simply inherited them, from his upbringing, from his culture, from the accumulated weight of other people's expectations, and he was living inside them as if they were walls he had personally built and personally chosen. He had not chosen them. They had chosen him. And he had never questioned it. Epictetus taught that the first and most essential task of philosophy is this: examine what is actually controlling you. Not what you believe is controlling you. What actually is. Because most people who feel free are not free at all. They are simply so accustomed to their chains that the chains feel like skin. The man eventually did leave the company. It was not easy. Several of the things he had feared did happen. But something else happened too. Something he had not predicted and could not have predicted from inside the cage. He felt like himself for the first time in years. That feeling, that recognition of the self that exists underneath all the unexamined obligations and inherited fears, that is what becomes available when you start to examine what controls you. Not with the goal of destroying everything, but with the honest intention of seeing clearly what you are actually living inside, and asking, is this mine? Did I choose this? Does this serve the person I actually want to be? Most people never ask. And so the control remains invisible. And invisible control is the most complete control of all. 2. Detachment is not distance, it is clarity. A surgeon was in the middle of a critical operation when unexpected complications arose. The patient's condition was deteriorating. Every person in that operating room could feel the weight of what was happening. The surgeon did not panic. Her hands did not shake. Her voice remained steady as she called for what she needed. She moved through the crisis with the kind of focused precision that looks, from the outside, almost like she does not care. She cared enormously. She cared so much that she had spent years training herself not to be overtaken by that caring in the moments when it would compromise her ability to act. After the operation, which succeeded, a young resident asked her how she remained so calm. She said, "I learned a long time ago that my feelings about the situation and my ability to respond to the situation are two separate things. In that room, only one of them is useful." This is the Stoic definition of detachment. Not the absence of emotion. Not the coldness of someone who has stopped caring. The disciplined separation between feeling and functioning. The ability to feel the full weight of something while simultaneously not being overtaken by it. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." The surgeon had realized this. Her feelings were real, but they were not the boss. Her trained, disciplined mind was the boss. And that mind could hold the feelings without being controlled by them. Detachment is not about caring less. It is about seeing more clearly. The person who is overtaken by their emotions sees the situation through the fog of those emotions. The person who has learned to hold their emotions without being swallowed by them sees the situation as it actually is. And seeing it as it actually is always the beginning of responding to it well. 3. The moment you stop needing their approval, the dynamic completely shifts. There was a young professional who spent 3 years trying to earn the approval of a senior partner at her firm. She shaped her work around his preferences. She adjusted her opinions in meetings to align with his. She dressed differently, spoke differently, positioned herself differently, all in service of getting this one person to see her as worthy. He never did. Or if he did, he never showed it. He remained perpetually withholding, giving just enough acknowledgement to keep her working for it, never enough to let her feel she had arrived. One day, after a particularly dismissive comment from him in front of the whole team, something inside her shifted. She did not react. She did not defend herself. She simply looked at him for a moment, turned back to her work, and made a quiet, internal decision. She was done. Not done with the job. Done with the pursuit. Done with the performance. Done with contorting herself into shapes she did not naturally take, for the validation of someone who had demonstrated, consistently, that he was either unable or unwilling to give it. Within weeks, people noticed a change in her. She was different in meetings, more direct, more confident, more genuinely herself. Her work changed. Her relationships at the firm changed. Even, and this is the part that still surprises her, her relationship with the senior partner changed. He began to treat her with more respect. Not because she had finally earned his approval. Because she had stopped needing it. Seneca wrote, "Show me a man who is not a slave. One man is enslaved to lust, another to greed, another to ambition, and all men are enslaved to fear." The fear of not being approved of is one of the most common and most invisible forms of enslavement in human life. And the moment you free yourself from it, the moment the approval stops being the goal in the work, the character, the genuine expression of yourself becomes the goal, everything in the dynamic shifts. Because people respond very differently to someone who needs nothing from them than to someone who needs everything from them. Need is weakness. Genuine independence, the quiet, grounded, unhurried confidence of someone who is not seeking, that reads as power. And it is. For, your emotions are information, not instructions. A man received devastating feedback on a project he had spent 6 months building. The feedback was not cruel, it was accurate. But accurate feedback on something you have poured yourself into for 6 months does not feel like information. It feels like a verdict. He went home that evening feeling hollowed out. Like a failure. Like the 6 months had been wasted, and like the feedback was not just about the project but about him, his ability, his judgment, his worth. He let himself feel all of it. He did not suppress it, did not perform resilience, did not immediately pivot to positivity. He sat with it. And then, the next morning, he asked himself a different question. Not, what does this feeling mean about me? But, what does this feeling contain that is useful? Underneath the devastation, he found something valuable. A specific fear about a specific gap in his knowledge that the feedback had exposed. Not evidence that he was a failure. Evidence that there was something specific he needed to learn. The emotion had been real. But it had been information about where his attention needed to go, not an instruction to conclude anything permanent about his worth. Epictetus taught this distinction with great precision. The initial impression, the gut reaction, the first feeling, is not within our control. What is within our control is what we do with it. Whether we accept it as truth or examine it as data. Your anger is information, it is telling you something was violated. Your fear is information, it is pointing to something uncertain. Your sadness is information, it is marking something of genuine value that has been lost. These are not instructions to be carried out automatically. They are signals to be read carefully. The person who learns to read their emotions rather than be driven by them has access to all the richness of a full emotional life, and none of the chaos of being controlled by it. 5. Detach from the outcome, or the outcome will own you. A writer once told the story of 2 novels she had written. The first she wrote with complete passion, for the story itself, for the characters, for the process of discovering what happened next. She was fully absorbed in the making of it. The outcome, publication, reception, reviews, was something she thought about, but it did not live in the room with her while she wrote. The second novel she wrote knowing it was expected. There was a publisher waiting. There was pressure from the first novel's success. And she wrote every page aware of the outcome that needed to be achieved, the reviews she hoped for, the comparisons she feared, the expectations she had to meet. The first novel was better. By every measure, artistically, commercially, in terms of how it felt to write. And she knew exactly why. The first novel was made from the inside. The second was made from the outside in. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Confine yourself to the present. Not to the imagined future outcome, not to the feared reception, not to the result you are desperate to achieve. The present, the work in front of you, the choice you are making right now, that is all you actually have. When the outcome owns you, when the result you want is so urgently needed that it sits in the room with you while you work, it corrupts the work. Every decision gets filtered through, will this produce the outcome I need, rather than is this true, is this right, is this the best I can do right now?" The detachment the Stoics practiced was not indifference to quality. It was indifference to the specific shape the outcome would take. They worked with full intensity and full care, and then released the result into the hands of everything they could not control. Do the work completely. Release the outcome completely. Both in the same breath. That is the practice. 6. What controls your attention controls your life. There was a study done with chess grandmasters and amateur players. Both groups were shown chess positions and asked to remember them. The grandmasters dramatically outperformed the amateurs, but only when the pieces were arranged in positions that could actually occur in a real game. When the pieces were arranged randomly, both groups performed equally. The grandmasters were not smarter. They had simply trained their attention so thoroughly on what mattered in chess that they could instantly recognize meaningful patterns and ignore everything else. Their attention was the superpower, not their intelligence, not their memory. Their ability to direct attention precisely and completely to what was actually relevant. Seneca wrote, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a great deal of it." And the primary mechanism of that waste is scattered attention, the chronic inability to direct your mind fully to what is actually in front of you. Every notification that pulls your attention away from your work is a small theft. Every conversation that has no bearing on anything you care about that you allow to occupy your mind for hours is a larger theft. Every hour spent absorbed in other people's lives, other people's drama, other people's content, at the expense of your own, is time and attention that can never be recovered. The person who controls their attention controls their life. Because where your attention goes consistently, that is what gets built. That is what grows. That is what your life becomes. Direct it deliberately. Protect it ferociously. And treat anything that tries to capture it without your explicit permission as the theft that it actually is. 7. Self-control is not restriction. It is the highest form of power. There was a general who was known for one quality above all others, not his strategic brilliance, not his courage in battle, not his physical strength. His self-control. When provoked, he did not react. When flattered, he did not soften. When threatened, he did not flinch. When offered something he wanted, he did not grasp. He was the same person in every situation, measured, clear, deliberate. His enemies found him impossible to read. His allies found him impossible to manipulate. His soldiers trusted him completely because they knew that whatever decision he made had come from clear thinking, not from the emotional weather of a given moment. He once said in an interview after his retirement, "The only person I ever fully controlled was myself." And that turned out to be the only person I needed to control. Epictetus said that the untrained person blames others for their misfortunes. The partially trained person blames themselves. The fully trained person blames no one at all, because they have learned to work with what is, rather than rage against what is not. Self-control is not restriction. Restriction is the forced suppression of natural impulse by external rules. Self-control is the freely chosen alignment of your impulses with your values, the state of being so clear about who you want to be that the impulse to act otherwise simply does not hold the power it used to. This is what training produces. Not the white-knuckled holding back of everything you want to do. The genuine shift of what you want to do, toward what you have decided you want to become. The man with no self-control is controlled by every strong feeling, every temptation, every provocation. The man with complete self-control is controlled by nothing outside himself, and everything inside himself is pointed in a direction he has freely and consciously chosen. That is not restriction. That is the most complete freedom available to a human being. 8. Detach from people's roles and see their actual behavior. A woman had a difficult relationship with her mother. Not difficult in the dramatic, clearly toxic sense, difficult in the quiet, confusing sense of a relationship that carried enormous emotional weight but consistently left her feeling unseen, unheard, and somehow wrong. For years, she gave her mother the benefit of enormous doubt. Because she was her mother. Because the role, mother, carried an assumption of good intention that she was not willing to question. A mentor eventually asked her a question that changed everything. If this person was not your mother, if she was simply someone you had known for a long time, would you continue to invest in this relationship the way you currently do? She sat with that question for a very long time. The answer was no. The behavior, the subtle dismissiveness, the consistent prioritization of her mother's needs over her own, the pattern of conversations that left her feeling smaller rather than more herself. That behavior would not have survived evaluation if it had not been wrapped in the label of mother. The label had been doing work that the behavior did not deserve. Marcus Aurelius wrote about seeing things as they actually are, stripped of the names and labels and associations we drape over them that prevent us from seeing clearly. This is one of the most difficult and most important forms of detachment. Detaching from the role, the title, the label, the relationship category, enough to actually see the behavior clearly. Not to immediately cut every imperfect relationship from your life, but to make decisions about those relationships based on what is actually happening rather than what the label suggests should be happening. Some of the most controlling relationships in people's lives are the ones wrapped in the most sacred labels. Family, old friend, mentor, partner. The label creates an obligation that overrides the evidence. And that override is where the control lives. See the behavior. Evaluate the behavior. And let your response follow what you actually see, not what the label tells you to expect. 9. The moment you stop reacting, you start leading. There was a meeting that had been going badly for 30 minutes. Voices were raised. Positions had hardened. Two senior team members were essentially arguing in front of everyone else, and the room had the specific tension of a fire looking for more fuel. One person in the room said nothing. She had not said anything for the last 10 minutes, not because she had nothing to say, but because she was watching, reading the room, understanding what was actually driving the argument beneath the stated positions. When the temperature finally dipped slightly, she spoke. Not loudly, not dramatically. She said 3 sentences, calm, precise, addressing the actual issue underneath the surface argument rather than the surface argument itself. The room changed. Not because of what she said, but because of what her saying it communicated, that there was someone in the room who had not been pulled into the current, who had maintained enough altitude to see the whole picture, who was operating from a place of clarity rather than reaction. That is what leadership actually looks like. Not the loudest voice. Not the most aggressive position. The clearest head. Marcus Aurelius understood this better than almost any leader in history. He wrote that when you wake up in the morning, think about what precious privilege it is to be alive, to breathe, to think, to enjoy, to love. He was not being sentimental. He was reminding himself that the day ahead would try to pull him into reactivity, and that his job was to lead himself first, then everything else. The moment you stop reacting to everything that happens around you, you create something that is extraordinarily rare and extraordinarily valuable: space. Space between stimulus and response. And in that space, you move from being someone things happen to being someone who decides what happens next. That shift, from reactive to deliberate, is the shift from being controlled to leading. And it is available to you in any moment you choose to stop and breathe before you respond. 10. Controlling yourself is the only control that actually exists. An old philosopher was once asked by a student, "How do I control my circumstances?" The philosopher said, "You cannot." The student asked, "How do I control other people?" The philosopher said, "You cannot." The student, frustrated, asked, "Then what can I control?" The philosopher said, "Yourself. Completely. Entirely. In every moment, in every circumstance, regardless of what is happening around you, you can control your judgment, your response, your character, your effort, and your direction. That is it. That is everything. And it is enough." The student thought this sounded like very little. He wanted more. He wanted the ability to shape his circumstances, to move people where he needed them to go, to guarantee the outcomes he was working toward. The philosopher said, "Every person who has ever tried to control the things outside themselves has ended up controlled by their inability to do so. Every person who has ever mastered the control of themselves has discovered that it was the only leverage they needed." Epictetus built his entire life on this truth. Born into slavery, literally the condition of having no external control over anything, he became one of the most influential philosophers in human history. Not by controlling his circumstances, by mastering himself within them. Marcus Aurelius ruled an empire, faced betrayal, loss, plague, and the constant weight of decisions that affected millions of lives, and he returned, every single morning, to the same foundational practice. Not, "How do I control this?" but "How do I control myself within this?" This is the final and deepest lesson of Stoic philosophy. Not a technique. Not a strategy. A complete reorientation of where you believe your power actually lives. It does not live in your circumstances. It does not live in other people's behavior. It does not live in outcomes. It has never lived there and it never will. It lives in you. In your choices. In your response. In the character you build through the daily, unglamorous, completely private practice of choosing who you are going to be, regardless of what is happening around you. Control that. Control only that. And you will discover that it was always enough. What happens the moment you stop being controlled? The title of this video makes a promise. The moment you stop being controlled, everything changes. Let us be specific about what that means. Your relationships change. Because you stop behaving according to what people need you to be and start being genuinely yourself. And genuine people attract genuine connection. The relationships that survive that shift are real. The ones that do not were never serving you anyway. Your work changes. Because you stop producing for an audience and start producing from your own standards. And work produced from genuine internal standards is always better than work produced to satisfy an imagined external judgment. Your peace changes. Because you stop spending energy on things that were never yours to control and redirect that energy toward the one domain where your effort can actually produce results: yourself. Your confidence changes. Because confidence built on external approval is always fragile, dependent on something that can be given and taken. But confidence built on self-mastery, on the daily evidence of your own discipline, on the accumulation of moments where you chose deliberately rather than reactively, that confidence belongs to you. Completely. Nobody can take it because nobody gave it. And perhaps most surprisingly, your relationship with the world changes. Not because the world got easier, but because you stopped fighting the parts of it that were never yours to fight. You stopped trying to control what you cannot control and started directing everything you have toward what you actually can. And in that redirection, that complete, honest, stoic reorientation toward the self as the only genuine seat of your power, you discover something that Marcus Aurelius kept returning to in his private writings, that Epictetus taught from his bare room, that Seneca wrote about with the urgency of a man who understood how little time any of us actually have. The only freedom that exists is internal. The only power that lasts is self-mastery. And the only moment it becomes available to you is the moment you stop looking for it anywhere else. Detach from what you cannot control. Control what you can. Start with yourself. And watch everything change. Please subscribe for more.